So they
Oh my
comes
gosh.
after the
You
gym.
know what? I really didn't recognize that you wear an Indian jersey right now.
Yes,
This
man.
is so good. I really
Do you
remember
remember that? Do
getting
you
you one,
remember that?
like
Yeah, this.
especially that you got like when I asked you like, what do you want from India when I went for my first visit back to India? You're
Yeah,
like, you know what? I really collect jerseys, so I would love to
yeah.
have like an Indian jersey. I'm like, wow, okay. But really, it was really, yeah, it was
I
worth for me
kept it,
to
and I was
get
like,
that.
it's a perfect time for me to bring it, like to bring it on this recording.
Yeah.
My brother, yeah. So yeah, I'm rocking India, and for my Ugandan listeners who are going to tune into this podcast, this
Hey.
jersey was gifted to me by my brother Enoch. That
Oh,
we're gonna
I'm pleasure.
have a
I feel
conversation
so
with.
pleasured and honored to be a
Yeah,
part of this relationship, this friendship. Man,
it is
you
crazy.
were such a special friend for me back at Great Lakes Christian College. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, among all the, like all the American friends that I have,
Hmm. Hmm.
you are the only one, I think so. The
Hmm.
African Ugandan friend that I have for
Yeah.
my entire life. And there's another guy, like after you graduated, I had my
Yeah.
other friend. His name is Daniel Kibuka.
Nyanzi.
Nyanzi, yes.
Yeah, Nyanzi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kibuka is my name.
Kibuka
Yeah.
is you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kibuka
the
is
other one is
you.
Nyanzi.
And
Yeah.
yeah, Daniel
Yeah.
Nyanzi, yes. I did have a good relationship with him too. But
Yeah.
man, we did have really good conversations back at the college.
We did, and I actually feel bad because I wanted to have you in my studio to do it live, but
Oh, yeah, for sure.
time and then
The
like
time doesn't work.
distance. But I was
Yeah.
like, no, because I remember when I had first started my podcast, I think in 2021,
Uh-huh.
either we recorded something or we were planning to do something. You had just got
We were
back to India.
planning to do it. We were planning to
Yeah,
get something on.
yeah,
Time schedule, the time frame
hmm,
didn't work for us, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So, but for sure, we were having those intentional,
Hmm.
a conversation that we really wanted to put it out.
No, I love it, and I'm glad we started off this podcast already, just like talking about that because that's one of the things I was gonna bring up. But yeah, I wanted to first talk about this jersey today that I'm rocking. People have
For
been
sure.
talking about, hey, you look good in your formal dressing and like wearing nice clothes. But today I was like, I have to wear this jersey for the reason we're rocking India because my brother Enoch is from India.
Hey, UG boy, let's talk to them. Let's talk, let's talk to them. Let's talk to, let's talk to them. Let's talk, let's talk to them. Yeah, I'm from a beautiful place, the Pearl of Africa. Hailing with a 256, it's in my blood. That's a gem where the mountains rise. With stories untold, the tapestry of cultures unfolding so vibrant and bold. A symphony of stars, a celestial light. The drums beating, echoing through the night. Just like a beacon of light, a reflection that's coming up from the Nile. I'm flowing straight into the heart of Africa with timeless stories untold. What's up, dog?
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Danceoff Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Danceoff Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Danceoff Studios, where stories come to life.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, and I'm your host, Bonny Chibuka. And today I'm sitting down with someone I actually went to college with, and we did a few classes together. And actually, I remember I sold you my guitar for that guitar lesson. I think you remember that part. Um,
Absolutely.
he graduated from the same college. I went to Great Lakes Christian College, and I graduated 2020, the COVID year, but he's one of the people that stay there throughout the college. His name is Pastor Enoch Studd Bylla, all the way from India. That explains why I'm wearing this jersey. He's the founder and director of Changes Ministry, which we're going to talk about today. And this is a mission focused on discipling, teaching, church planting, and outreach. We're going to talk about his journey from being a pastor's kid to become a missionary leader, what it means to make disciples to this generation, and how generational gaps can affect ministry. So let's get into it. But before I give the mic back to him, I want to explain to like my listeners, my audience that always tune into my podcast. Once in a while, I'll bring people from all sorts of life so that we can impact, grow, and listen to people's stories. I don't refuse to bring anybody from any parts of life, whether pastor, whether somebody from a different religion, whether musician, whether artist, because my podcast is open. We can learn something from every person's life and journey. And this is why we go all the way to India to get my brother Enoch, who is doing amazing work in India. Welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you so much. I am so honored and so privileged to be a part of your podcast.
And we were talking about, I mean, we already talked about which is going to be part of this. We were planning this since like 2021, 2020. When I first started the podcast, I was just getting people on my podcast to share their journey. But one thing that I kept telling people on my podcast is like, one thing I've learned through this podcast is God's timing. God's
Absolutely.
timing is the
Absolutely.
best. When I was
Hmm.
going to have you in 2020, you had not started the Changes Ministry.
No, not
And we
yet.
were going to just talk
Hmm.
about what you hope to do. But here
Hmm.
is a perfect time where you're already doing this. There's already a lot of testimonies that have happened in India. There's a lot to
Absolutely.
talk about that the work has done. So that's why I say God's timing is always the best. So now we're having a perfect time to have
Hmm.
you. I knew I was loving to have you in my studio, sit
Oh,
across
yeah.
to me so we can have this conversation. But thank God
Hmm.
for technology and you're able to get us a good footage and good work. So
Thank you so
people,
much.
you're in America right now. How has it been ever
Yes.
since you came in?
Well, it is cold for the first time. I mean, like after 2 years. Like back in India, this is not the coldest. Like, the coldest
Okay.
goes to like 60s or something, or 50s maximum. But here it's like, man, this is like freezing cold. Like
Yeah.
the first time when I came to the States was in the month of January. So
Okay.
just imagine me coming to the States in the month of January, it was like freezing cold.
Hmm.
So I lived for 5.5 years doing my college, my Bible college
Hmm.
at Great Lakes Christian College, and heading back and coming back after 2 years. My
Yeah.
body is kind of it's got a glimpse of
Forgot it.
what cold looks like.
Yeah.
But after 2 years, you mean like, okay, I can take it, but you're like, not from Michigan cold. So
No, none for Michigan cold. People need to know Michigan cold. And like the people in Uganda, they look at snow. It's like, oh my God, I wish we could get snow. But you can look at snow for 2 days. You love it. It's beautiful. But when it goes on for like 6 months, it becomes
uh
something else. Like you get
interesting. So
really
Uganda,
cold.
so you have snow in Uganda?
No, we don't.
No, you
But
don't
like
have
when they
snow,
see
right? Yeah.
pictures, no, we don't get snow in Uganda. Do you get
Yes.
snow in
Say
India? No, India,
no.
yeah, India
I mean,
doesn't
like
get
in
snow.
India, we do have snow, especially to the north part of India, especially not even north,
Okay.
like close the states which are close to Himalayas.
Hmm.
Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. You have pretty snowy areas. So
Okay.
we have really good snow places, especially in Kashmir. Kashmir is a place where you have a tons of snow. If you
Mm,
really want to taste some snow, you like experience some snow.
yeah.
And I think so. People travel from all the way from south and east and west to
Mhm.
just go to the north part of India to just experience that snow.
I
And it
think
is
in
cold.
Uganda, the only place you can go see snow is on Mountain Renzori, which is like on the
Mount,
top of the mountain.
oh, really? Huh.
Mountain Renzori, like yeah, they have snow on the top of the
Gotcha.
mountain, so you have
Okay.
to climb the
Wow.
mountain to go see that snow there.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
Okay.
Enoch, how is
Yes.
life? How is it going?
Life is good. Life is beautiful. Life is challenging.
Yeah.
Life are filled with ups and downs, I would
Mm,
say. If I would say in one word what life is, in a nutshell, life
mhm.
is a melting pot.
Yeah.
You
Crazy.
have many things, especially as being a young man, having this cross cultural experiences,
Hmm.
doing your education and in a foreign country, and coming back again, going back to India. It's quite challenging, especially how do you bridge that life
Yeah.
from a Western culture to going back to your own culture. And again, you don't want to westernize things. When I go
Hmm.
back, you wanted to work with your people in your own culture
Hmm.
and spreading God's love according to the cultural context.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah.
life is tough, but when you're passionate, you can just keep going until your last breath of your life. So
I love that because every time I ask people the question, how is life? How is it? How is life going? Some people can say, "Oh, life is good," and they just keep it at that. But I love it when somebody actually goes on to elaborate and tell you how actually life is. So it's pretty good. I love it. Anyway,
yeah.
On my podcast, I have two segments. No, I have over like four segments, something like that. We're gonna walk through that.
Mm-hmm.
The first segment is fun and just fun question. It's called this or
Okay.
that.
Sure.
This or that is where I ask you two things. You're gonna pick one.
Okay.
Feel free to explain why you're picking that and dropping the
Okay.
other, or feel free
Okay.
to say, you know what, I don't really have an explanation for that. I'm just picking the answer. That's okay.
Perfect. I'll try
But
to
two
be
things,
honest as much as I can.
but two things you can't say,
Okay.
neither or both. You're gonna have to pick
Neither
one.
on both. Okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to pick one. Are you
Sure.
ready?
Yes.
Big church or small house church?
I would say small house church.
Why?
Because God starts anything small. He doesn't go from big to small, but he goes from small to big.
That is a good one. That's a good one. As simple as that. I like that. Uh, no cap, like they say these days. Preaching or teaching?
I would say teaching,
Okay.
because teaching is something you have a lot of scope for discipleship than just preaching. Jesus was preaching, but also teaching too, you know?
Mhm.
So he was preaching for the 5,000, but his investment in his 12 disciples was mostly teaching,
Okay.
being with them and living with them, you know? I think so. That is what, when all these disciples were asking questions to Jesus, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Tell us more
Yeah.
about it. And, you know,
Yeah.
and Jesus is like, okay, this is what it means. This is what it means, you know? That's what goes with conversations between a teacher and a
Mhm.
student. Preaching is like only one way. Teaching is two-way. So I
Mhm.
like two-way, like the podcast that you're doing right now. So
Yes, that's a good one. I love it. I'm really enjoying because I'm gonna learn a lot from you. I know we're
oh
like friends and
well,
age mates.
me too. Me
I
too,
can't
man.
wait. I can't wait to learn a lot about this. Morning prayer or late night worship?
I am not a morning bird for sure. I do not like to get up in the morning, you know, having those
Yeah.
rosy eyes and just, Lord, thank you so much for this day. Nah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy with that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I just like to pray all night.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a night bird, so I just like to do things in night. Even back in India, we like to hang out in the nights, like, you know,
Mhm.
playing games, even with your youth group, with your
Yeah.
like the connections that you have. We just like to do things in the night. So having like a late night, all night prayer, we call in India, we call all night prayers. Even at our church, that's what we do. Is like, just as a church fellowship, we stick together and, you know, pray for our community, pray for our nation, pray for our families. Bringing all our prayer requests at one spot and praying, especially. And so night prayer, night worship is something which I prefer. And so yes,
Mhm.
that's something which my thing is.
I like morning because I'm a morning person.
Mhm.
I wake up at 5 here to go to
Oh wow,
work.
that's really early.
Even when I was back home, I would wake up like at 4. My
5
mom
o'clock.
would make us like
Okay.
pray every morning. I hated it when I was younger, but when we did it over time, like I got
Uh-huh.
used to it, and I just went with it.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
Coffee and Bible or fasting and prayer?
I would say coffee and Bible. For
Okay.
sure. It doesn't mean that I don't like fasting to pray. For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, like, we do have a lot of fasting prayers back in India too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
fast, you know, for
Hmm.
Good Friday, the Lent days, you know, you say that, like,
Hmm.
having fasting before the Good Friday, you know, and we do have fasting times, but
Hmm.
having just a cup of coffee, uh, going out into the nature,
Hmm.
opening your Bible, having your devos in front of you, and just
Hmm.
enjoying the nature, having a cup of coffee, and just reading some verses from the book of David. Man, that feels so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It just
Feels so
touches
good.
the right spot, you know.
Yeah.
He makes me
And,
lie down on those green pastures. You know,
hmm.
when you
Yeah.
read those verses and
Yeah.
you're just open in the creation that God created you to experience. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think so. Like, I like doing that stuff.
Anyway, the last one: leading worship or leading a sermon?
I would say leading a sermon,
Yeah.
leading worship. To be honest, it's not my gift. And like, I'm not really a good singer,
Yeah.
so I I try to sing sometimes, but my people say that my voice sounds like a little bit girlish when I sing, the high pitched notes, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's not my thing.
That's
Preaching, you can give me as much as
and
time
yeah.
you want me to
Yeah.
preach, and I'll preach it.
Anyway, Enoch, that's our this or that. We usually do that to break the ice, to kind of just
Mhm.
get the conversation going.
Absolutely.
But I feel like our conversation didn't even need to break the ice because we first started talking for like the
Oh yeah.
whole segment before even we got into the podcast, which I
That
really
jersey
love.
itself has breaked the whole ice. You
Yeah,
know, the jersey which you wore it.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that is like it just completely breaks the ice. You were an
yeah.
Indian, you were like an African American Indian right now,
Indian.
you know.
I'm gonna add that to my nationality. Who are you? I'm African,
American.
Ugandan. I'm African, American, Indian. Yeah, yeah. I'll add that to that. Anyway,
Thank you.
now we go to our main segment. This segment is
Okay.
where we're gonna break through your journey, the
Mhm.
work that you're doing, the amazing work you're doing
Absolutely.
in India, your journey, how
Mhm.
you came up. We'll just walk through that. And I remember you telling me you were raised as a pastor's kid. I was raised
Oh
as a
yeah,
pastor's
I
kid
am a
too.
PK's kid.
Um,
Are you a PK's kid too?
yes, sir. I
Oh
am
yes.
PK's kid. So you were raised as a PK's kid. How did that shape your faith and identity growing up?
Well, that's really a good question because all my life I was raised as a pastor's kid.
Hmm.
And raising as a pastor's kid, I didn't really put a lot of work to my faith, to be frank and
Okay.
honest, because as if you're not a pastor's kid or you're not surrounded by some Christian folks and like a Christian family, you need to put really some work to your faith in believing the
Right.
God, the
Yeah.
Creator. For you, you're just like raised as a pastor kid. Like our
Hmm.
church was right above our house. Like in India, what we do is we have like stores, like stairs, like first floor, second floor, third floor. So the
Hmm.
first floor was our house, and the second floor, the top of the place which we lived, was our church.
Hmm.
So my entire life, I was raised in the church.
Hmm.
I really thank my church, like my church, the church which was grown in is called Horeb Church.
Yeah.
That's the church my dad started, Horeb.
Mhm.
So like the Mount Horeb. So from the time where God spoke with Moses on this mountain,
Mhm.
that's the name Horeb. So that's what my dad's church is. So I was raised in that church. So as a
Okay.
pastor's kid, I would say I really had some good church fellowships, church friends that I've raised with. But as I have to be strong and honest, the first thing which really impacted my life, influenced my life when I was a child, was I
Okay.
just wanted to live like my dad. I wanted to be like my
Okay.
dad. Just when you're a kid, you just like to do you like to imitate your parents. Like,
Mhm.
if a girl, she just likes to sweep like her mother, she likes to dress like her mother.
Mhm.
If it's a boy, he just wanted to do things like his dad.
Mhm.
If your dad is like cleaning his motorcycle or something, next time you have a cycle that you want to do
Yeah.
that exactly like your dad. So my
Mhm.
dad was preaching over there, and I was looking at my dad and was like, maybe someday. I was like in
Mhm.
my first grade or second grade.
Yeah.
So just like to do, I still have that picture with me, like
Mhm.
having myself preaching. It's called a preaching game. That's what I say.
Mhm.
Like when
Yeah.
you're a little boy, you do all kinds of sorts of games. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, we did play a preaching game with my sister and my cousins, and I was taking my dad's Bible. I had my dad's coat on me, and I started preaching. Like the Bible was so heavy, but I was like, okay, let's preach. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
raised as a pastor's kid was, I would say, in one word, is um, you have been you are going to be influenced by your parents a lot. Like whatever your parents are going to teach you, that's going to be for your life. So I think so that is what I feel like.
That is amazing, and just me growing up as a pastor's kid too. Like I see like what you're saying there, and I can relate my life to that. And I like to tell people that actually growing up as a pastor's kid, you're privileged that it saves you a lot from a lot of things you would have gone to. Like me growing up as a pastor's kid, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't do because I'm a
Hmm.
pastor's kid, and that
Yes.
just that saved me
Yes.
from. I could be doing like because even when I was in schools, like how would my dad find out if like I did this or something
I
like that?
did this
So it
thing. For
kind
sure.
of
I agree with
yeah
you.
kind of saves you from that. But I know they always have this saying like sleeping in the garage does not make you a car.
Uh huh.
Growing up in a Christian home does not make you a Christian.
Oh, sure.
When was that moment for you when you realized, okay, I have to make the decision for myself, not for my
Hmm.
dad, but
Oh,
like for
sure.
me
For
to
sure.
take on this journey?
Absolutely. I mean, like my time was when I was matured enough to understand the love of Christ, like the
Hmm.
time where I felt like, okay, this is a time I really wanted to really feel like God wants me to really think about it, so that throughout my life, when I was raised as a pastor's kid, my mom and dad were doing divorce with me every day, every night before we sleep. We used to pray. They used to teach us about the stories
Mhm.
from the Bible, and so when I was raised as a pastor's kid, during my time in my ninth grade and 10th grade, that was my 2 years of my life, where you're like, kind of getting matured enough to understand that you really need to work on your faith than your parents working for your faith.
Mhm.
So I feel like when I was in my 10th grade, that was a time where I
Mhm.
decided I gave my life for Christ. I got baptized in the month of
Mhm.
in the year 2000 2011, I think so. Yep, that was
Yeah.
my year when when I got baptized. And
Okay.
I would say my parents, my mom and my dad, and also my grandparents, my grandfather, my grandmother, were also a huge influence in my life,
Mhm.
just for that spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So after I had a couple of sessions of what baptism is, I got baptized with my grandfather in my grandfather's hand. So my grandfather baptized me. So
Okay.
uh, that
Actually, I
was.
think I remember. I remember you sharing that story at school when we were at school, because we always like shared talks about stuff on life in
Oh
India,
yes.
life in
Oh
Uganda.
yes,
So
for sure.
I might know a little bit about that, but I would love my audience to get to
Uh-huh.
learn, get a glimpse a little bit about India and what life is like in India.
Hmm.
And through that, when did you realize like you were called into ministry? Because now you're doing ministry yourself.
Oh yeah,
When
for
was the
sure.
decision that you
Hmm.
wanted? I know you grew up seeing your dad doing it,
Yes,
but when
yes, for
was the
sure.
time that you're like, okay, I think I'm also called to do this?
Okay, well, long story short, 2000 2015, at that moment or something, I lost my grandfather. So I was like a very close. I was a myself and my grandfather were like pretty close besties, like kind of,
Mhm.
like we were so close that throughout my life, I was one of my favorite. My grandpa was one of my favorite because I was the only one grandson in my mother's generation and my father's generation. I was the only one grandson to him.
Mm.
So all girls. I'm the only one guy.
Wow. Wow.
So it made me more close, made me more special to my grandfather. 20 years of my life, I was like 18 years of my life, I was kind of raised by my grandfather.
Mhm.
So having that kind of relationship with him, all of a sudden when he passed away, my faith kind of shook. There was a time where I felt like the Bible talks about having a mustard seed of faith,
Yeah.
and moving mountains. And when this seed of faith really didn't work, my question was, do I really need this faith? That was a time where really life kind of turned me, twisted me. I my turning point was my grandpa's death. So, and that was a time where I felt like, what, I need to really pray about it. If really God wants, if grandpa is my life, or else was he a part of my life? So that was a moment where God was speaking with, from the book of Isaiah and book of Jeremiah, that my plans are not like your plans. Like,
Mhm.
mm, grandpa might be a part of your life, but grandpa isn't your life. I have
Mhm.
beautiful plans than just your grandfather. You
Mhm.
might have some good memories with him, but life is just hard. The world is broken.
Yeah.
So not everybody's not going to be permanent in your life. At some point, somebody's going to leave you. But the call, what God called you for, is going to be with you till your last breath. So I was trying to search what wants me to do for His kingdom, and that was a time where where I got a great opportunity with my parents' connection in the States, Darren
Yeah.
Penwell, who was an ex-graduate student of Great Lakes Christian College.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
that is how I got connected to Great Lakes Christian College. In 2018, I came to Great Lakes. I want to just be into this exile. I
Mhm.
feel like I want to go out of my family, just like
Mhm.
being out of my space and just
Mhm.
learning more about the Lord. Just like Jesus when he was like, into the desert for 40 days, and 40 nights. When
Yeah.
Moses went into exile into the desert,
Mhm.
and it's just like that. Like I feel like, what, Lord, just take me away from my family. I just need some time just with you and learn more about you. And I think so that 5 years have turned my life into a place where, with a mission, with a call, and with a vision, heading back to India.
That is amazing that you even touch about Great Lakes, because that's where I was gonna go next. And that's how I met, for the people who started with us this podcast. That's how I met Enoch, and that's how I know him. We went to the same college, and that's how I met this brother, amazing brother, doing amazing work. And listening to his story, I felt like I needed to have a
Thank
sit
you.
down with him, to have him on the podcast to share his journey. And the goal of this
Absolutely.
podcast is to inspire, and impact somebody out there who's listening. So maybe you sharing your journey and your story will inspire somebody, and maybe somebody is at that point where
Absolutely.
they want to do that, but they don't know
Yeah,
how, and
absolutely.
they don't know,
Yes.
and that will give them a push in the decision they want to do in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you touch
Mm-hmm.
about Great Lakes. What was your experience studying at Great Lakes, and especially during the COVID year? Because that took a hit on
Man,
everybody. And I know you were there, you had not graduated yet. It affected graduation. How did that season test your strength and your faith?
if I would say the COVID and Great Lakes, man, those two words are completely opposite. Great Lakes Christian College experience for me was, for sure, I would just give credit to my professors.
Hmm.
Because back in India, professors are not just that, I would say, is like just being a friend to you, and just being a coach, just sitting next to you and say like, hey, what's up? Do you want to go grab a cup of coffee, and
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
you know um, just talk about it. It's not something back in India that I've grown in my schooling, my college. It was kind of tough a little bit, because even though if you wanted to ask questions in your class, it was really not it was not a thing that you ask questions a lot in the class. The
Hmm.
professor is going to be like having a textbook in front of you, having all the important questions written down for you. Just memorize it and go take your tests. That's the
Hmm.
system back in India when I was raised. Like nowadays, it's been growing. There are these new concepts coming in and kind of really encouraging the Indian schools and colleges having the conversational concepts, like having conversations, like
Hmm.
asking and learning things from your professors. And
Hmm.
that is something which back in India, back at Great Lakes, that is something which changed my perspective of being coached.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is something really helped me out, is because my first semester of my Great Lakes, I really struggled, because I am not really an English speaker,
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
from a country which is like English is your third language. I speak Telugu, that's my first language.
Hmm.
Hindi is my second language, and English is my third language. And
Hmm.
after coming to Great Lakes, you have to study Hebrew and Greek.
Yeah.
Man, this is tough. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I've been working with my English, and now Heather Bunce, one of I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you know about her,
Yeah. Shout
and
out to
Ron
Heather Burns.
Peters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Ron
Ron
Peters, that
Peters.
Greek
Yeah.
professor. It's like, okay, this time Ron Peters was my advisor. He's like, okay, this time you're taking Hebrew and Greek. And I was like, Hebrew and Greek, okay.
Hmm.
So, well, that was tough, but still, it was really like I was loving learning. I like to learn new languages, but
Yeah.
so it was tough. So,
Hmm.
but out of all those tough situations, out of all the things, that what I feel like is Great Lakes has been a really great experience for me at studying the college, and the friends that I've connected with, some of my friends. And it's a very small college,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the college has a statement: why to be a small fish in a big sea instead of being a big shark in a small pond?
Hmm.
So it's a small pond. Like if you're really a shark, like if you're like super in like valued among your college, like everybody knows everybody in the college.
Hmm.
So like you have a community, you have an identity in a small college. If you're like in a bigger college, you're lost. You're like nobody knows you. You might have like a small circle of friends that you might
Yeah.
connected with. Great Lakes is not like that. Great Lakes is like from your professors to your
Hmm.
cafeteria people. Everybody knows everyone, because I know,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like you worked for the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So there were times you're like, you were serving me. You were coming.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you want, Enoch? And I'm like, okay, I'm going home. I'll grab it some chicken. I'll grab it some rice. Okay. One more? I'm like, no, thank you. So
Yeah.
I still have those relationships, those conversations with you. So
No.
do you
Yeah. Great
remember
Lakes. Uh-huh.
at Great Lakes, there was a time we had like a fight. We didn't really fight, but we were like
Hmm.
falling on each other, and you kicked me in my rib.
Oh, I did.
Yes, you did kick me with your bone in your rib, and for 2 minutes, I just lost my life. Like I was like, I just can't breathe. And again, you're like, Enoch, are you fine? Like we were like falling on each other and trying to,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
catch ourselves. And it was hard. And I was like, man, Bonny might be a little bit tiny guy, but he is strong. So,
So
yeah,
funny sharing that on the
beautiful
podcast.
experiences at Great Lakes.
I'd forgotten that. One of the things you touched on that really I feel the same way is the relationships. Like here we are
Yes,
5 years
absolutely.
later. We still treasure this relationship. Like I know we've not seen each other, but hey, we got connected, and that's not gonna change for the rest of our lives. That's why
Uh-huh.
you're here on the podcast. The friendship that I've made with other guys, Jay Quinn, Q,
Japan,
Terry,
yeah, for sure.
like all
Terry
those
Choker.
guys, like we
Oh
we
yeah.
still still talk to them. And the other thing was the professors,
Oh
the
yeah, for sure.
relationship with the professors. And I shared that when I was at Grelex, like in
Uh-huh.
Uganda, you'd see your principal coming through here.
Oh
You're
yeah.
taking this route. Like I'm not
You
going
just
that way
run away
because
from that
yeah, you
place.
just run over. Like you've not done anything, but in your mind, there's something that you're gonna get in trouble with. You just run that way.
And you
But like
don't call by
having
name.
you don't call by name. Like actually, I
Yes.
remember you sharing that. Like you call them by sir. Like
Yes. Or
you see
madam or
the
sir.
respect. Yeah. So, but I like Sam Long is one of the relationships that I've kept still today, and
Okay.
we text each other watching soccer and all that. Like
Oh
having
wow.
a professor like that, it helps you even to your
Oh
learning.
yes, for sure.
So shout out to Great Lakes and respect for
Oh
the
yeah.
work and the
A
impact
big
they
shout
did
out to Great Lakes and big
in
shout
our
out to the
lives.
professors over there.
Yeah,
So
yep. Shout
yes.
out, shout out. Good job you're doing. Anyway, so at Great Lakes, and then after Great Lakes, you make the decision, move back to India to
Uh-huh.
continue with the calling that God has put on your heart, the
Mm-hmm.
Changes Ministry.
Yes,
What inspired
absolutely.
the name and the vision behind it?
If I would say changes, as I told you that my early days in my 2018, 2016, 2017, that was a time where I started a small group in my church, having it's a young men group. It's like
Mhm,
small group, just boys, and the time where I was kind of questioning about my faith and God, it's not like just only raised as a pastor's kid, you so that you have this faith for till your last breath of your life. No, that's not it. That's not how it works. You need to work on your faith, like you need to understand about the creator, that who created you. So that was a time where I had this boys who said, like, you know what, it's not just you, let's join together and just pray together, so that it's like
mhm,
holding one another's shoulder, you're like supporting each other in prayer. And so I think so that was, I strongly believe that those were the moments
mhm,
that helped me out to figure out what my call was, like helping these young men, coaching them, helping them understand what the importance of God's love was during those small group sessions. I think so that is something where I feel like God has really put a name onto my, God has really gave me this name called Changes, because after
mhm.
people coming into that group, there were many changes in our
Right,
lives,
right.
like even including myself. There were many changes in my life after I came into the small group and I came back again to Great Lakes, doing all
Mhm,
these things. Like everybody's life, at some point, you'll be having many changes.
mhm.
I think so that is something which I felt like God wants me to keep this name as Changes Ministries when I
Yeah.
started this mission, is because that's where God sowed the seed for his kingdom for me to work for him. And now all the way after college and after this beautiful resources that God gave me to do my Bible theology, and when I was starting my mission, people were saying, like, my professors were encouraging me, where did God start with you?
Mhm,
Where was the seed that God planted in your heart? You have to go back again. I think so that is something which I felt like, okay, the group that God gave me, so-called Changes, why
mhm,
can't I name this group as my mission's name?
mhm.
So I started naming it as Changes Ministries, and I went back, did some coaching, teaching, training.
Yeah.
And yep, it's just amazing that God, the way of God worked.
You left Great Lakes, you went back to India, and I know
Mhm.
you were just a student going back to India. It's a rough start. How
It
does
was a rough start.
returning back to India? What were those first few months like, and even till today now?
The funny part is, everybody's hands are going to be on you. Like, people are going to touch you for sure. In
Yeah.
US, in the States, and in America, everybody has a personal bubble.
Hmm.
You are not going to touch that bubble. Like, you have your own space.
Yeah.
You maintain distance. Even when you
Hmm.
walk, you have distance among people standing in the
Hmm.
line.
Hmm.
Like, people are just like, you can still say hi. At some point,
Mhm.
it's just so it's different when you want to hug. People are like huggers, like they'll hug you and just still they'll be back into their own space.
Mhm.
In India, everybody's like friends or family. Everybody's putting their hands on. They're like touching you. They're like being just super close. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I go back to India, like, oh, Enoch, man, and they're just like touching you, and I'm like, okay, hi, hi. You're like, you're just so, yeah, you feel like that cultural shock, You're
Yeah.
just, you are a part of an Indian, you are an Indian, but it's just
Mhm.
that cultural shock because it's been a long time for me to go back
Mhm.
to India. And I don't have any problem doing that. I want to do that back again, but it took some time for me to do that.
Yeah.
People coming in super close and talking to your face, you're like, okay, yeah, hi, yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So it's just it was different just to
Yeah.
be among, because India is a very community oriented
I was gonna say
community
that.
or
I was gonna say
India.
that because Uganda
Yeah,
is like that too.
India is a very, very community oriented country. America is a very self independent country. That's what
Mhm.
I would say.
Mhm.
You're very independent,
Yeah.
you know
Individualistic.
individual, very independent, and it's like you don't need to depend on anybody else.
Mhm.
In India, it's not like that. Everybody
Yeah.
depends on somebody at some point.
When you leave India, come to the US, live there for 5 years. On your return
Mhm.
back to India, it's the
Mhm.
same thing in Uganda. They say, "Oh, you've been in America." Every person, even though your friends,
Okay.
look at
Yes.
you as an American. You have money. You have money. You've got this.
Yes.
How was it like for you returning to India?
Oh my gosh. People like, especially they're like, oh, nice, cool. Well, coming back to the States and going back to India, where like it really costed money, especially for the tickets. And
Mhm.
so I used to go back to India for every 2 years, kind of like, just to visit my family for Christmas. So that
Mhm.
was the only time where I went back to India, like 2 years, and I came back again and I stayed for 2 years and I go back again. So every time I go back, the common thing that my people back ask is, man, can you get some chocolates? Can you get some candy? And I'm like, okay. And
I
if
actually
you're
saw a
really,
picture of you carrying a bag of candy that you're taking
yes,
back
I
to
did
India.
upload it on Facebook because I read
Okay.
this in this next week, not even next week, in 3 days, I'm going back to India.
Okay.
So I came to do my missions work just to give an update about what the work I'm doing back in India. And now I'm
Mhm.
going back. And so everybody, and there are some people, if I would say, are they think that we are, oh man, this guy is like having a lot of money and just like they're just like having a beautiful life. And at some point, just being a missionary isn't it's not like a IT worker, like an IT
Yeah.
company
Yeah. Yeah.
job holder. You're coming and just having a luxurious life. That's not how it works to be as a missionary.
Mhm.
And so heading back to India, it's just challenging. It is kind of challenging for people to understand that perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
unless and until you can understand a heart of a missionary. you
Mhm.
know so that was hard, like just going from the States. It's like, oh well, this guy's having the privilege to go to the States, and I said, I don't see it as a privilege, I see it as a blessing. I
Right.
see it as a part of, we don't really deserve this, you know but God has opened a door for us to come, for me especially, doing my education over here and heading back to India. If I really was so crazy about the States, I would just
Mhm.
settle over here. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, this is so comfortable. Let me stay back over here and
Yeah.
make some bunch of money and take it back to India. That's not what was on my plan.
Yeah.
God was calling me for my state, for my country back in India. So no matter whatever, I've had these opportunities in the States, I go back to my country and serve my country.
Yeah.
So if people can understand that, good. If and not, you can't satisfy everybody for sure. At some
Mhm.
point, everybody at some point will misunderstand you,
Yeah.
and you just can't fix. You can't figure that. You can't fix those things.
Whether you do something good or whether you do something bad, obviously somebody's gonna have something to say about
Yes,
it.
for sure, for sure.
But on that note, you mentioned you planted a house church in your
Yes,
office.
absolutely. hmm
What's that experience like compared to a traditional church setting?
A traditional church setting is like, you have like a building and you have like a communion table in front of you. You have a pulpit. You have some bunch of musical instruments. Have like people coming into your church and being a part of it. That's kind of a traditional way of doing things. And when we went back to India, and I know, like, figuring out a space to run a mission was challenging. Christian mission, especially back in India, was not really, it's not a part that it's not easy. It's not a cakewalk thing. You just can't cakewalk. back in India to live as a Christian. So it's not easy to live as a Christian back in India. And so when I started this house church, it's really a miracle, if I would say. It's really a God story, I would add to it, because we really didn't plan to start this church.
Mhm.
We really did not have a plan to start this house church. And when God, sent this woman who I was part of this apartment. Right now, we are sharing a space in one of the apartment to run my office, my mission. My the place where myself and my wife lives. That was a space where a woman comes and says, "Hello, Pastor. I'm so happy that you are a missionary, and we just want to let you know that there is not even a single church in a 10-mile radius around this place." And I felt like God was calling me to start a house church over there. So we started a house church over there, and this woman went and brought 6 women, and those women brought other people. So we are right now running around like 12 to 13 people in this house
Nice.
church.
Nice.
And church is not all about a physical structure. That's what I would say.
Mhm.
Church is people.
Mhm.
So when you ask house church or big church, I would say house church, because if 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, that is where I will be, is what the word says.
Point.
So
Right.
I'm pretty sure the Holy Spirit is kind of guiding us for this church in such a way that that can impact God's kingdom in the future. I don't know in which way God is going to work with this church.
Yeah.
So he was the person who led us and helped us start.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to be faithful with it.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced while starting this mission from scratch?
The biggest challenge is finding a space.
Mhm.
When I was a Christian mission, there were people, to be honest, I'm just being frank, there were people thinking, oh, you guys are going to convert? Are you going to do some conversion? Are you going to do doing this gospel thing? And I'm like, I would say we're not trying to convert. I wouldn't use the word conversion. This is for my community. This is for my people, for my Christians, to help my Christians understand the Bible more clearly, helping the Bible more, contextualizing the Bible according to its context in the church setting. This is not like a global, like a outreach thing that I'm like, hey, I'm doing for no matter what the religion is. I just wanted to
Mhm.
share the love of Jesus for everybody. That was not my focus. My focus was
Okay.
more about especially focusing my community, because there's a statement in English, you say, unless and until you can't take a piece from your eye, you can't poke
Mhm.
another person's eye. You can't show
Mhm.
another person saying, hey, this is what your fault is. There are many
Mhm.
faults in our religion itself, in our community itself. And we want to make sure that, as I strongly believe, is God has given me all these resources in the States, teaching and training and coaching. I want to take it back to India for my people, for my community. So that was kind of challenging for people to understand that,
Okay.
the understanding the vision behind the mission.
Mhm.
And finding a space was pretty hard. It literally took like 8 months for us to just figure out a space for just start the mission. So
Oh,
it wasn't easy.
well, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, when you mention that, I see how people can find it hard to understand, because I know people can quote the Bible like God is calling us to go share the message among all
Hmm.
nations, among all
Hmm.
people and everybody.
Yep.
But what I've learned from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like the people you need to equip the people that are going to go out to those nations. Like
Yes,
you
absolutely.
can't the people who are going out to those nations must be equipped to know
Equipped.
what to
Yes.
share with the people. Like you can't
Yeah.
just go.
You
You
just
need
can't
to
go.
equip those
Yeah,
people, like so they can teach the right teachings to the people that don't
absolutely.
know God.
I
So
mean,
I
like
think that's how I said.
if I would add to it, that's what Jesus did 33 years of his life. He was on this planet for 33 years, and 3 years of his life when he kind of picked his disciples. Why would Jesus do that? Why can't he just come, just preach for this 5,000 people and say like, okay, now these 5,000 people, you guys go around the world and preach. He didn't do that. He equipped the 12 apostles, trained them, gave them the gifts of the Holy Spirit, helped them understand what is God's kingdom. And then the last ascension, like before he ascended to heaven, that's what he did.
Mhm.
He spoke with his disciples and says, now as I get all the authority on heaven, on the earth, I want you to go baptize them in the Father name and the Holy Spirit and giving the gospel to all the nations. That is
Yeah.
when the Great Commission comes from Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, 19, and 20.
Mhm.
The Great Commission, that's what you call that, the Great Commission, which means the
Mhm.
end of that is the last commandment that Jesus gives
Yep.
to his disciples. I feel
Yep.
like that is so true, is you just don't go around and just start working. You have to figure out
Mhm.
what God's call is, and
Mhm.
if you're figuring out what God's call is, and if God give you the gift of helping others,
Yeah.
coaching, discipling, you have to make sure you stick with that call.
What are some of the testimonies like or moments? I know you shared about the lady who reached out to you and talks about
Mhm.
the space, but what are some of the testimonies that have
Oh my
reminded
gosh,
you that you are
many
doing
testimonies. I
exactly
was
what
like,
God is calling you to do?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like something's really which really makes me passionate, which burns my fire inside my heart, is when I have a conversation with a young man or like a young woman, and they're really curious about understanding about God's love. Helping them understand about what does it look like to live for Christ. What does it look like to
Mhm.
really be passionate for the Lord? And I think so that is something which I really like to do it. There was one girl back in India. She was, as my mom and dad runs an orphanage back in India. It's called Renewed Hope India. So she was raised in this orphanage from like when she was like third grade or something. And she right now she graduated from our orphanage. She went back and she did nursing. And after she did nursing, she went to our local community to just be a support to her mother. And during this time, she was really scared and she was really not into the concept of baptism. She was like thinking about, man, this baptism stuff is not for me. I have a lot of stage fear. She doesn't like to be in front of people. When you get baptized, it's what does the church do? You just take them and put them on the stage and say, like, okay, we're going to pray for you. We're going to have you share your testimony and all that stuff. And she was not at all into it. So she was like, nope, I'm not going to be baptized for sure. And that was a time where I had a personal conversation with her. I was like, no, baptism is not just all, it's not just only getting onto the stage and just sharing your testimony. It's like more beyond that,
Mhm.
facing your fears and crossing those. I think so. Something which this girl was challenged, like it was hard for her to do that. So, me having a conversation with her about what baptism is, it took literally 8 hours of our session.
Mm.
It started like in the night around like 9 o'clock or something, and it went until
Yeah.
like morning 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
Wow.
She was asking bunch of questions about what baptism is,
Mhm.
because if I would say Jesus had two thieves next to each other, you
Mhm.
know and one of the thief was Jesus said one of the thief saying that, hey, you are going to be with me in paradise for sure, and he's not yet baptized. He was not baptized, and that's what her question was like. This guy wasn't baptized, but he is in heaven right now.
Yeah.
So how does baptism makes so important for me today? And all those important questions,
Mhm.
answering those questions and helping them understand, and finally she got baptized the next week.
Yeah. That's amazing.
that
That's
is
that's that's
something
really
which that's
that's
something
really
which I
good.
like to do.
You mentioned to me like before you did your pastoral ministry, you did
Mhm.
computer science or something about
Absolutely.
computers. Yeah, computer science.
I
And I
like
want
tech.
to ask you this question today because you've done computers and we have technology to
Mhm.
this day. How do you think technology or social media has affected discipleship
If I
positively
would
or
say,
negatively?
there's one word called digital discipleship. Have you heard about
Okay.
it?
No.
So, digital discipleship, which means like you're living in a digital world.
Mm-hmm.
You're living in a world which is like super fast growing and modernized, and according to technology in everything, it's like super fast. So, according to the scriptures, when you look at the scriptures, Paul talks about being among according to the time, and be among the culture according to the time is very important.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the 90s and now you're in the 20s, you were born in the 90s and now you're in the 20s. Sometimes your 90s skill is not going to work for the 20th generation, your 20s generation. It might be
Mm-hmm.
working for a 90s person, but it will not work for a 20s generation person.
Yes, sir.
You have to make sure you get updated. And I think so. Discipling, coaching, especially on digital world, like this technology. Right now, whatever you're doing right now, like having a podcast. And if somebody's going to hear this podcast and somebody gets motivated and being encouraged, you have already planted a seed in their heart to go
Mm-hmm.
serve out in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because of you, you have
Yeah.
planted that seed. God has used this platform, so-called discipleship, and so-called digital discipleship, like
Mm-hmm.
online coaching is something which I see technology is going to be a huge resource.
Yeah.
And nowadays, YouTube, in those days, in back in my days when I was child, like a kid, super kid, we didn't have YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube was like it was not really that big thing.
Hmm.
Nowadays, you get YouTube and you type anything, everything was
Yeah.
in YouTube. You know,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
you just why can't church? Why can't churches? Why can't Christian community? I feel like is use that resource, use that
Yeah.
platform
Hmm.
to help people coach, to
Yeah.
motivate, encourage the next generation. And I
Hmm.
think so that is what technology comes in, just not just saying, oh, technology is sin, we can't work
Hmm.
with it. No, when the
That's it.
Pharisees comes and asks, should we pay taxes? Because, as like these Jews are not going to do it. And
Hmm.
Jesus says, give
Season.
what is Caesar's for Caesar,
Yeah.
and give
Mhm.
what is God's kingdom for God's kingdom. When
Yeah.
you're using this money, you say you have a like a $10 note,
Hmm.
and you have a figure on that. But the government owns that money. That's
Hmm.
what the government it is. It's not God made thing. Now we are
Hmm.
like, oh, I can't use this money. That doesn't work in a practical world. You want to make
Yeah.
sure you use this money for the right way, for the right
Hmm.
things. So
Hmm.
money is not sin. The
Yeah.
way where you use it is sin. I would
Listen.
say
Yeah.
that technology is not sin. The way how you use it is the way
Listen.
which matters.
No cap. Like what kids these days say. Like that's a mic drop right there. But like you also mentioned to me, like you wanted to start a podcast ministry. This is something I think you mentioned
Absolutely.
to me a few years back. Actually, you messaged me on Messenger. We had this
Yep, I
long
did ask you about it.
conversation, and like a few years back. What kind of conversations or message would you want to bring to this platform? And we just talked about social media, how we can
Mhm.
impact. How would you want to do that? Because I love it when people want to start podcasts, and it's definitely working. Like a lot of people, I see feedbacks all the time that I've reshared to
Uh-huh.
people. How people tell me, "Oh my God, you brought this guest, he impacted my life like this." And it works, and people are
Yes.
changing lives through the
Yes.
conversation that we're having here. And if it wasn't
Absolutely.
changing lives, I wouldn't be here. Like if I've not got
Absolutely.
if
Yes.
it's not impacting somebody, I wouldn't be doing it, but I'm doing it
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it's impacting somebody.
It is
What was your
impacting for
mind
sure.
behind it? Yeah.
And if I would say podcast thing is because when I saw you, especially to be frank and honest, you were the huge person in my life, the biggest person who was an inspiring person for me to start a podcast. For me to start a podcast when I go back to India. The
Yeah.
reason is because you started with something small, not even
Hmm.
with video. I still remember you doing with, having it on like Spotify or like
Yeah. Yeah.
using some
Audio.
podcast
Yeah.
apps
Anchor.
or something that, yeah, just starting something
Yeah.
with small, just from something common. And right now, look at the way how God has used you, just growing into like 10,000 followers and like
Hmm.
20,000 followers on YouTube and reaching all these people with different stories, with different cultures, from different backgrounds, with different concepts and themes. Man, that is, you have been reaching with multiple different platforms just with one concept, so called podcast. And I feel like, why can't I do this when I go back to India? Is saying, I have been connecting with all these pastors, these young men, Christian men and women. I feel like what I strongly believe is podcast interviewing stuff is not just only for superstars, influential people. It
Hmm.
can also be for common people.
Exactly.
It can also be for a common pastor in a rural village saying, Pastor, please share what your story is, the way have God worked through you. Can you please share your story? So that now this pastor comes and shares his story, and there is out there in the world, I'm pretty sure there might be man, I've been thinking, I really was not great for all these things that God has given me. Looking at this podcast, hearing at this story, that this guy's story, man, I really wanted to take some really new decisions for my life, new resolutions for my life. So I think so. Those things is going to be that is the thing which a podcast is going to take you to the next
Yeah.
level is
Yeah.
helping people coach, disciple, encourage, motivate digitally in a digital
Hmm.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think you hit all the right points, and that's the mentality of people. I see a lot of people. People text me all the time. I want to start a podcast. Can you help me? And I tell them, it's your why. Why are you
Yes.
doing this? Some people are doing
Yes.
it because they want money. When you do
Uh-huh.
podcasts, it's gonna take a long time for you to get. If
Uh-huh.
you're not a celebrity, if you're not famous, but when you started with the intention of like, I want to impact somebody's life with a
Yep.
goal to add on somebody's life, you're gonna
Hmm.
be able to do this thing and just start. And I'm happy that you reminded me of how I started with just audio. I started with a phone. I
Yes,
didn't have
absolutely.
microphone. I didn't have all these, and
You
people
did not
still
have
used
all
to
this
demo.
equipment for sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did not have, but that comes with time, and as
Yeah.
time goes on, you
Uh-huh.
learn and how to do better. Anyway,
It was,
um, we're coming almost close to the end of this
yeah,
podcast,
for
but I
sure.
wanted to ask you a few questions before I let you go. Is like doing ministry is challenging sometimes, and there are seasons when ministry feels slow and
Hmm.
uncertain.
Yes.
How do you stay grounded in those moments?
The only thing which sticks, which makes you feel grounded in ministry in your toughest situations, is faith. Walking by faith,
Hmm.
not by sight.
Yep.
You don't walk in ministry with sight, but you walk by faith. There were times I would say my dad was a big inspiring person for my life. Madhukar, his name is. My dad was really beaten by mobs back in India just for doing ministry, like beaten really bad. Looking at that, if during that time, if my dad would give up and say, like, oh no, I'm not going to do any ministry right now, that would not lead today start branch churches, starting an orphanage, and being an inspirer for the next generation like me and starting a mission so-called Changes Ministries. If my dad would give up on that day, today we would not have all these things. And having ministry when it's really tough, you stick by faith and say, may the Lord help and work with us. There are many scriptures in the Bible talks about blessed are the people who are being persecuted. Blessed are the people who are being, struggling for faith. That's what Paul says. Living for Christ, dying for him is gain. And just being let that passion be in you, no matter wherever
Mhm.
you're, no matter what the situation is. You're not doing ministry because you have resources. You're doing ministry because you're passionate about it. You're doing ministry, you're working for the kingdom because God has called you especially for that. And resources, all other comforts and all other things that God opens doors for these ministries, that is second thing. The first thing is you stick with the call no matter what the situation is. No matter what the situation is. And if somebody's out in the world right now, whoever is hearing this podcast, I strongly encourage is God has called you for a special purpose with a special vision in your local community.
Mhm.
You are specially and wonderfully made in his image. So don't think that you don't have an identity. You
Yeah.
do have an identity in Christ, and try to figure out what God is calling you to do
Mhm.
for his kingdom that can
Yeah.
everlast. You know?
I like to add on to that. Like, there's some reminders in the Bible that God tells us, like, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Like,
Yes,
even when
absolutely.
things feel slow,
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
things feel uncertain. And one of my favorite verses, I've shared it on this podcast quite a bit. Proverbs 3:5 and 6. That trust in the Lord with all your heart
All
and
your
lean
heart,
not on your
yes.
understanding. Lean
Lead
not on
not
your
on
own
your own understanding.
understanding.
Yeah,
And he will make your path straight. So
absolutely.
that has helped me a lot. Like, even when things like, how am I gonna, even my
Hmm.
life in America,
Oh
like,
yeah.
how am I gonna go through here? But
Hmm.
just keep your trust in God and he'll make the path
Absolutely.
straight. Well, we've come all the way here and I've not touched on the last time I saw you, you were a single man, single as a Pringle. But now
Single as
on
a
the
Pringle. And now I'm ready to mingle.
now you're ready to mingle, or you're already mingled.
Already I'm mingling, yes, for
So
sure.
you're a married man,
Got
senior pictures of
married,
your wife,
yes.
and
I
just
got married. Yeah.
yeah, it's been crazy to see your journey, keeping up on Facebook. What
Hmm.
lessons has marriage taught you about leadership and serving others?
Marriage, the way how it influenced my leadership. That's
Hmm.
what are you asking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. If I would say my wife, her name is Stella. Uh, oh,
Shout out to Stella.
yes. Oh, okay. Shout out to Stella. For sure. I will convey that regards to my
Yeah,
wife for sure.
yeah.
And she was also raised as a pastor's kid.
Okay.
So down the road, out of God's calling, the way how we got connected, it's a beautiful story. Maybe someday I would love to share about that. We don't
Yeah.
have time about that, but for sure,
Mhm.
after I got married, something which I really came to know is discipling, coaching, training, and guiding is not somewhere else. It starts inside your house. It starts
Mhm.
with your marriage. You are going to be a great example to your wife, And sometimes it's like you learn from each other. The Bible talks about iron sharpens iron, you know. And I
Mhm.
think so that is what my wife has really been a huge blessing for my life, is helping me understand about what does it look like to be patient, because that's something which I lack. I don't have. I That's not my strength. And um, she has taught me how to be patient. She has taught me how to be, using wisdom at the right space, at the right platforms. And I think so wife is not just like a helper. Some people think like, wife is a person who is, oh, you're a husband, so you take a first place, wife is like a
Mhm.
second place. No, that's not how God made you. That's not how God's design for marriage is. God's
Yeah.
design for marriage is having being equally yoked
Mhm.
as a partner. As a partner, partnership is way different just being as a helper, as when the Bible talks about, I'm going to make a helper for the man in the book of Genesis. The Hebrew word for helper means equally yoked, partner. So when people, sometimes when the Bible has been translated to English, it has a different, you know it kind of doesn't give the real meaning of what the Hebrew text speaks, like the original word speaks.
Right.
So when I heard about that, I mean, like when I read my Bible, I did my contextualization about it. Marriage isn't just like you be the first place and the wife be the second place. You
Mhm.
just equally get yoked in the ministry, in your life, in everything. And I think so
Yeah.
that is something which um, she has been a great help. And you know this in India, there's a statement. It's like if you have like a bullock cart and you
Mhm.
have a one bull pulling the cart, there's a difference between one bull pulling the cart and having two bulls pulling a cart.
Mhm.
You know, so if two bulls are pulling one cart like a bull cart, it's more fast, it's more easy, it goes in a balance. If one bull and you have a cart, it's it's a little bit heavy
Slow.
for it. So that's what
Yeah.
I feel in the ministry, having my wife with me.
That's a good analogy. I love that. I love that you added that. Anyway, Enoch, just a simple question that I want to end this, and then we do our final segment. Is
Sure.
what do you think global church can learn from believers in India today, like the American
I,
church? I would say.
for sure, for sure. I would say the biggest thing that a global church can learn from India is being grateful for things what you have. You don't need a big mega church or a big like a big stage or something to start a church. You can still start a small church and a small house in still making differences in people's lives. The global church, what I kind of help them understand is being faithful even when you're persecuted, and being grateful in small things.
Anyway, Enoch, well, we come to end of this recording, but I have rapid fire segment. This segment is
Okay,
quick.
sure.
You give me the first answer that comes
Let's
to your
go.
head. You don't have to think about it. I like to
Okay,
give a disclaimer to the listeners or people watching that this is not advice,
sure.
because it's going to give me the first answer of his
Okay.
head. He's not think about it. But also,
Hmm.
I like to say that's just a disclaimer. I don't ask any questions that are going to
Sure.
give wrong answers. Anyway,
Hmm.
you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
What's your favorite Bible verse or story that keeps you going?
The story is the ascension of Jesus and Jesus speaking with his disciples.
Okay.
Matthew chapter 28, 18, 19, 20.
One word that describes your 2020 COVID year at Great Lakes.
One word that describes
Yeah.
of my
The
college life
COVID.
at Great Lakes during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Wow. Just being locked in your room and not able to access anything.
That's I don't want to go back to that. That was crazy. Who's someone
Mhm.
that has deeply influenced your faith journey?
I would say my grandfather, Abraham Lincoln. That's what his
Yeah.
name is.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Yep.
I like that. If you weren't doing ministry, what would you be doing right now?
You know what? If I would not been doing ministry, the thing which I like to do is just working on some tech stuff, like
Yeah. Yeah.
building my own system. I mean, like for sure, it's not AI,
Yeah.
but something building a technology that can
Yeah.
really help the world in some point. So that's something I really would like to do.
What's the biggest change you want to
Mhm.
see in the next 5 years?
I would say I really wanted to change myself physically, like working out,
Yeah.
just put some effort to my body and just make yourself fit so that you can really be strong. And, if you're physically not strong, you really can't mentally be strong to work for the kingdom. So I think so. That's something which I really want to change for myself in this year, is just putting some workout for my body. Just lift some weights, man.
Yeah, I need to do that. I need to do it myself. I've been keeping myself busy. I need to get my body active and all that. I've been sitting
Yes.
a lot and
Uh-huh.
doing that. Anyway, I have final three. It's also a one
Mhm.
answer question. What's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
The life lesson is, it is not the end of the world, and you can still keep going no matter what and how the world kicks you down. And God has got your back. And that's what the word talks about. Be still and know that I am your Lord,
All right,
and he
that's
will
good.
fight for you.
What gets you excited about life?
Well, the things what gets me excited about life is not knowing what my future is. And, not knowing what the next day is going to be like, and just trusting the Lord with all my heart and experiencing that new thing. I did not really imagine in my dreams that I'm going to come back again to the States with my wife.
Yeah.
And now I'm here with my wife. And that really excites me about the way of God has his plans for me. So that is something which I'm really excited for my future. About my life.
This is a signature question that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. Who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest? And you help me get that person here. It could be anybody I know, we know from Great Lakes, from anywhere. And
Mhm.
since now that we can even do virtual, it's somebody I can reach
You
out
can
to.
just
So it doesn't matter
reach out
where they
and
are.
talk
Yeah.
about. And I would say, what? Have a professor from Great Lakes.
Okay. Like some long, somebody's like
Some any professor that you think that can give
Yeah.
time and just be on
Yeah.
on your podcast and just
Yeah.
sharing about what does it look like to, be a student
Yeah.
and a professor podcasting. Well, that is going to be cool.
That would be good. That would be good. I think I'll nominate Sam Long for this one. Sam, you need to be on this podcast if you want.
Okay,
If you don't, I'm gonna send it in our group chat.
for sure.
Anyway, Enoch, for the listeners, Enoch, it's been a great reconnecting, hearing your journey from Great
Mhm.
Lakes to India and
Absolutely.
now leading Changes Ministry. Your
Mhm.
story is powerful and a reminder
Thank you.
that
Thank you so
calling
much.
isn't limited by where you come from
Mhm.
or by your willingness to go where God sends you. And for everyone listening, check out the link in the description to follow Changes Ministry and the amazing work that Enoch is doing and his team back in India. This has been the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, where every story inspires a conversation that matters. See you in the next episode. With my brother Enoch. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank
brother.
you so much. Goodbye. See ya.
Yes, sir.
Namaste.
See you. Namaste. Hey there, my name is Bonny, the podcast host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. Thank you very much and be blessed.